Good morning, good morning. Look at that lovely garden. I don't know who lives here. He's a very lucky man. I'm going to go the windy bend way because there's too much driving into the sun if I go the other way. How are you? Hope you're well. I'm well. Let's put the windows up. So a quick windscreen wiper on the back. Yeah, so how's it going? There's too much noise coming in this car. I'm wondering. I've just opened that other door, but it doesn't say door open, so I'll have to assume it's all right. Yeah, having sort of had the last 2 or 3 videos on macroeconomics and world politics and stuff that you probably think, old Amy doesn't know much about. Got no right to be spouting off. I'm gonna have to pull in and just check that door because I don't believe it's not shut. What I mean is I don't believe it is shut. I'm pulling up here. So we had a situation yesterday, which is just the sort of day-to-day situation, aggro that you get, when you're running a general practice. And that is that we had a discrepancy. We put our fees up and we put... Why is that beeping? It's not because I've got plenty of petrol. Alright. Let's try that. Now I'm behind Fredco. So, so she's on the face of it, she's quite a nice lady. She's got a denture and she brought in, she needed a repair or an addition doing to it or something. And I remember that our service is so good that I actually did the repair and dropped it off on her house on the way home on the basis that she probably wanted it back as soon as possible. This is another thing you can do when you get the patients to pay in advance. So anyway, she needed a tooth out. She hasn't been in for a year, right? She's not a regular attender. She's not the sort of person who really values her teeth and wants to keep them and likes to, make sure they're inspected on a regular basis. So she's got this massive cavity in the front of her upper left 7. So there's no way we can save the tooth. So it's needs to come out. So we booked her in. I think we booked her in about a week's time, and then she asked if she could bring the appointment forward because it had all imploded, which is what they do after a while, collapsed in and left a bomb crater, which was biting her cheek, right? So she's biting her cheek with it now. So this is an upper left 7 on a irregular attender who doesn't like coming to the dentist and he's going to like having a tooth out even less. And so it's not, we have 3 types of extractions, like the bear's porridge. We have the baby bear extraction, which is like a loose lower incisor or a premolar that's really periodontally got a periodontal infection on it or something and he's waggling about. We've got a daddy bear's extraction, which is what we used to do quite a lot in the old days, which is surgical extractions, where you have to raise a flap and take away some bone and possibly divide the crown into two parts or divide the roots or whatever. And then in the middle we have like a mummy bear's extraction, which is a tooth, which is just your routine extraction. So of course this falls into the middle category, doesn't it? It's not going to be dead easy, but on the other hand, it's not like it's an impacted lower eight or something. So, and the problem is that we're getting, what I'm going to describe to you, we're getting quite a bit of these days, which is patients pushing back against the way we're doing things. Now, when I qualified, an extraction was free. All dental treatment was free, if I remember correctly. Or, you know, there was like a £3 limit on the cost, and there wasn't much of a problem. Now, obviously, most dentistry, I would say, you know, probably not most dentistry, but I mean, a lot of dentistry for the beleaguered middle classes who are not exempt or remitted from NHS charges is done in the private sector. Increasingly, people are having to go to the private sector to get their treatment done, and they're just behaving like they're buying fruit and veg at a market stall. They are not, you know, like you should not expect a private dentist to be cheap. Okay, in fact, I'll go so far as to say, if your private dentist is cheap, then you don't have a private dentist. You have someone who's just wants to charge NHS plus, as we used to call it. So I have to go carefully through here because they usually have a speed trap in this car park of this pub, or rather, if they have one, that's where they put it. So, but we're still getting lots of people saying, you know, how much? Well, I mean, I don't blame them for that. I mean, that is a standard negotiating technique. If you read Richard Denny, you know, on sales and marketing, he will tell you that if you ever buy anything, you have to look shocked at the cost, because then you can, you know, perhaps, you know, you're in with the other person then immediately goes red and feels guilty about asking for so much, and then, you know, there's a small chance that you might get a discount. So, or you can say, you know, can you do it for less, or can you give me a better price, or whatever. So certain ethnic groups will come in, and you know when you quote them the price, they're going to say, but, you know, can I get a discount on that? And people are very inventive. And again, I don't blame them. You know, that's fine. They're welcome to try as many tricks on me as they like, and I know just as many tricks that I can work on them. So it's a negotiation. But at the end of the day, really, you do have the cards in your hand, because, and as you're going to see from the story I'm going to tell you. Now, so this woman, we told her a while ago she needs to have a tooth out, and she's decided to have it out, and then it's collapsed and it's rubbing her cheek. So she wants it brought right forward. So we brought it forward to next Monday, bearing in mind that I think it was a Wednesday or something that she asked. And Monday was the earliest we could do it. We're literally booked up solid this week, because I've got this new obligation to pick my grandchildren up from school, due to them having two working parents. You know, got a working grandfather as well, to be honest, but does that worry them? No. But no, not that I mind, you know. I mean, as you know, if you're a grandparent, you know what I mean. Sometimes you're like, it's the only quality time you get with your grandchildren. Sometimes we're dropping them off to school or picking them up from school. They're absolutely delightful. In the car, they're fine. We have a chat and everything, and it's nice. It's nice to have a daily and weekly contact with them. So we couldn't fit her in this week. So anyway, then she sent us an email saying, I've had a look on your website, and in the quote you've given me, it says $2.99 to have this tooth out, and but on your website it only says $199. So now, and that's good. I mean, that is a perfectly valid point. I don't have a problem with that. What happened was in last October when we put the fees up, we adjusted the fee scale on the computer, which does the quotes, but we forgot to carry that over to the website. Now, let me give you a tip. You can only have one authoritative source of fees. So, you know, it may be the website, it's unlikely to be, or it may be your fee scale that's programmed into your computer. I would suggest it is better off being the fee scale that's programmed into the computer. Because then at least your quotations are going to go out correct, even if your website's not correct. So we've got this problem of the woman saying, like, can you honour the, you know, your fee was at the time that I came in was $199. She's totally ignoring the fact that in the quotation she got, the fee was $299. So let's go off on a tangent slightly and say, well, okay, Angry, that's a hell of a jump, you know, from $199 to $299 for an extraction, which is like, you know, is quite possibly a ordinary, what, you know, most dentists would call an ordinary extraction, run of the mill, you know, everyday extraction. How can you charge $299 for that? And the answer is that I went to a dentist. I have a dentist. He's in Tunbridge Wells, great guy. And I worked out from what he charged me for the work I had done and the way he was working, that he's working on the basis of grossing about fees of about £300 an hour. That's what he's aiming for. So for example, if you have a crown done, then it might take 2 hours and he'll charge you 600 quid. So it'll be £300 on the first visit, 300 on the second. And then perhaps you come back and have a couple of fillings done. So that's 150 per filling, and then it takes about an hour. So that's another £300 an hour. So I'm thinking this bloke's charging about £300 an hour. And I reckon that's about, for like a reasonably good quality private dentist, £300 an hour is about right. I mean, when I say right, I mean, I think it's low, but, you know, compared to other professions, bearing in mind that I've, you know, got over 40 years training and experience at this point. If I was a barrister or someone else, or an architect or something, I certainly would be charging £300 an hour. Let's go. That's it. But, you know, reasonably, £300 an hour is our target. So that's why I'll charge £143 for a filling. I've got to get this screen defaulted. And we can do 2 fillings, 143, it's about 280. So we're not far off target there. But an extraction takes about an hour, and so we charge $299. Now, let me tell you a bit about how we set our fees. What we do is when we decide that we are cheap across the board, we apply a percentage uplift. So for example, around about April, we might apply a percentage uplift. Not included in that percentage uplift are fees for the day-to-day stuff like checkups. We've got 3 different fees for checkups. We've got X-ray fees and scan and polish fees. So those fees are considered separately, and the reason for that is that we regard those as the gateway fees. They are the ones that people will pay, which will bring them into the surgery to possibly have other work done. So there's no point charging £1,000 for a checkup, because not only will you get no checkups, but you'll get no other work. So our standard charge for a checkup for someone who's been within the last 9 months is £35. And every 2 years we'll throw in X-rays free of charge for that as well. So now, again, you know, you have to understand our mentality. A lot of dentists will not throw in x-rays free of charge. They'll charge for, you always see it on their fee scale, small x-rays, you know, plus 20 quid or whatever, which I don't like doing, because for two reasons. If you say to someone, you know, it's that time again, we need to take some bite wings, and they know that it's going to add 20 quid or 30 quid to their bill or something, there's a lot of, a proportion of patients will say, is it all right if I don't have those this time? Can you do them next time or whatever? And what can you do? I mean, you haven't got consent. All you can do is just say, yeah, all right then. But then that compromises you, because you've done a checkup, and you know, they may have some decay between their back teeth, which you can't see because you haven't done the x-rays. The General Dental Council is very unsympathetic to dentists who say that they couldn't do a proper job because the patients decided that they were going to take control of the clinical agenda and not the dentist. So, and the other reason why we're doing them free of charge is that you're basically writing a check, aren't you, to yourself? It's like a blank check. Now, I'm not saying that gives you the right to invent fillings and stuff like that, but what I'm saying is that you make money out of doing work on patients, and so what's the point of getting patients in who want and ask for checkups and need checkups and who need work, and then letting them walk out the door with the decay that they came in with? You've got to find it, and that's what they want you to do. So when you're doing checkups and bite wings, if a filling shows up on a bite wing, then you can say, look, you need a filling, and I'll stick it on your quote, your treatment plan, your estimate. And they're very easy to say, to show the patient. They're tangible, you know, they're sitting there. If you've got a digital x-ray, it'll probably come up on a screen right in front of their nose, and you can say, look, you see that looks like someone's had a bite out the side of that tooth. That's a big load of decay. Or, you know, see those shark fins on the side of your teeth? That's a big load of scale between your back teeth. You need to come back for a couple of deep cleans under local anaesthetic. So what you're doing with a checkup is basically you're writing you're finding out what you can do to earn the money. Now, that's one way we set the fees. That's the blanket increase, wasn't it? And the other way we set them is that sometimes we come across a fee and we think, you know, we are not in the right ballpark with this. For what we're doing, we are not charging the right amount. And that can be things like checkups and stuff like that, but it's mainly the big ticket items. It's the things like the root fillings, it's the things like the crowns, it's the things like the dentures. And there, what we'll do is I'll say, look, you know, it's quite blatantly obvious to me that we are not charging the market rate for what we're doing. Now it's almost certainly because the market rate for what we're doing is gone up because of the drop in value of the pound or whatever, consumer price inflation. Or it could be that we are just doing more than most dentists. So for example, with our crowns, we don't do porcelain bonded crowns anymore. So these are crowns where you lay down a metal thimble and then you paint it with Tipex, and then you lay a porcelain over the top, and you end up with a crown that looks like a crown. It's like what I call an Armitage Shanks type porcelain approach. It looks like a crown, doesn't look like a tooth. They used to, in the 1980s, when there was a lot of porcelain technicians around and a lot of skill within the technical profession, and people could make a crown that looked like a tooth. But now you are not going to get an NHS or private porcelain bonded crown that looks really like a tooth. Certainly not anything you're going to want to have anywhere near. You might get away with it on a molar, but not on a premolar or canine or any size one. So all our crowns are ceramic crowns. All of them. One day I just said, look, I'm not going to do any more porcelain bonded crowns. They look crap. The ceramic crowns look brilliant. okay, they're 100 quid more, but you know, I'm just gonna have to say to the patients, you know, this is the cost, but the crown that you get back is going to look fantastic. And so far they have all been fantastic. I haven't fitted a single ceramic crown that I'm at all embarrassed about. In fact, most of them are so good. I say to the patients, when you ever go and see another dentist and they check up your teeth, you'll need to tell them that that's not a tooth, that is a ceramic crown. Okay, and there's a bit of BS in that, but you know, I mean, for the most part, it is true. The patients certainly, and their friends down the pub won't know. So, and it became obvious to us that, you know, the amount of time that we were putting into taking teeth out was not, you know, it was that the fee couldn't justify the sort of service that we were providing. Not only on the £300 an hour rule, but also because we are, for example, we will take out teeth that other dentists won't take out, like lower eights, providing they're not involved, providing there's no bone over them distally and they're nowhere near the canal. We will take those teeth out, and we've taken a lot of teeth out from patients who've been on a right merry-go-round to try and get a really painful decayed lower wisdom tooth out, and no one will touch it. And then we get them in and we say, look, would you want us to take it out for you? And they say, you know, I can't believe that you've offered, you know, would you? Because otherwise it's like a 3-month wait to go down to the oral surgeons. So we do attempt things that other dentists won't touch. We also, when we take a tooth out, we will put a fibrin plug in the socket. And we do that routinely. That's reduces post-operative bleeding and helps the clot form. We will quite frequently put sutures across sockets, not only on people who are on the you know, we don't get so many people on warfarin now, but we get a few patients on this clopidogrel anti-clotting medication. And while they almost never need stitches, sometimes we do put stitches in, and sometimes we just put stitches in to stay in practice. You know, if someone's on clopidogrel and, you know, and we haven't put a stitch in for a couple of weeks, we will perhaps put a stitch across that socket, because, you know, you can argue that clinically that's not bad practice. I mean, you know, you could save someone from having a bleed later on, and you need to remain slick and in practice at doing all this stuff. So, and then also, I mean, if you doubt, you know, how much effort is involved with taking a tooth out these days, then just go back a few episodes and look and listen to my episode about how we took a tooth out of a nervous patient, you know, which includes lots of time to wait for the anaesthetic to work, giving them Lucozade tablets if they pardon me, if they haven't had anything to eat recently, you know, testing the tooth, perhaps doing interligamental injections, etc., etc. So it was obvious to us that 199 was not going anywhere near reaching our £300 an hour target. So what we did was we would rather put it up to 299. And again, for most people, you know, I mean, if they've got a painful tooth or a decayed tooth or something, then I would say 300 quid is not so bad. Especially when you consider that we are doing this at quite short notice, considering other dentists, you know, you probably couldn't get an appointment for 2 or 3 months around here to get a tooth out. So anyway, so let me get to the point of the story. This woman writes an email and says, you know, can you please adjust your invoice down by £100, which is, of course, we are not going to do. So I wrote back to her and I said, I'm sorry, the fault is not that the invoice is too high. The fault is that the fee scale was overlooked when we adjusted the prices. And she wrote another email back saying, crikey, literally, open square brackets, italics, SIC, close square brackets. Crikey. You know, £100 price increase. So I'm like, I looked at Lou and I said, you know, I just don't need this stress. Okay, it's our fault. We forgot to adjust the what's it. And so I wrote back and I said to her, I'm sorry, I know, I understand you think you found a loophole, but and that, you know, you're going to entitled under Consumer Credit Act or whatever, that £100 off, etc., etc. Oh dear, what are these old dears doing? Nobody's doing anything sensible today. I don't know why. But you know, but it's not. That's not how. It's and also a little tip, okay, which you may not know, but which is useful to remember, which is that advertising something at a price does not. Pardon me. Does not create a contract to sell it at that price. It's what they call an invitation to treat, or rather an invitation to buy in layman's language, which means that that the other person has to say that I want to buy it at this wrong price, and you have to say then, all right then, go on then, I'll let you have it because we put it out, we priced it incorrectly, and only when you accept payment, the wrong payment in effect, does the sale take place and it become a binding contract. So I did a bit of googling around and I found this place that's doing extractions for 120 quid. So I said to her, go, you know, you can go to this surgery and they'll do it for you. They're advertising extractions from 120 quid. And I said, show him our treatment plan and let me know which dentist you're seeing and I'll send him your notes and your x-rays, etc. What's going on there? I do not know what's going on there. Anyway, she's written me this really sort of, it's quite a nice email back, but basically realising that there's, first of all, she's unlikely to get into this dentist. Secondly, she's unlikely to get the advertised price of 120 quid. Thirdly, she's certainly not likely to get it done by Monday. And fourthly, she quite likes coming here as a dentist. So she's written this email back saying, sorry, I didn't mean to upset you, didn't mean to cause offence, blah, blah, blah. Please can you reinstate the invoice and my appointment on Monday, and you know, I'd like you to do the extraction for me if you can. Which is, you know, my how can I put it, my intention in sending her the email and telling her that we'd be more than happy if she went somewhere else was not to produce a grovelling apology. It was, to be honest with you, it is actually just to get rid of her. I just do not need the stress. And I could still reply and say that I'm sorry, I understand all that, but I just don't need the stress. I do not need all this stress in my life. And I'm going to turn 66 in a couple of weeks. I'm past all this. You know, oh crikey, a price increase of £100, blah blah blah. I mean, her quote was correct. Your quote was correct. It said the correct price. Only you shouldn't have started nosing around the fee scale, advertised fee scale, and then you wouldn't have been so upset. And we corrected it within 10 minutes of her telling us. We had it updated on the website, so now it was correct, and it was the only one that was incorrect. And there was no intention to deceive. It's not like we advertise prices on the website which are less. You go to our website, that is our actual, for the most part, is our prices. So I don't know how I'm going to respond to it. My gut feeling is to say, look, I'll give you, say, 50 quid off and we'll call it quits. And you can carry on coming here. I mean, that will be the sort of the humane thing to do. The other thing to do would be to just to ask one of the girls to email and say, look, Mr. Watson said he doesn't need the stress. Because I certainly don't. Because it's embarrassing, isn't it? It's going to be embarrassing when she comes in, isn't it? And I don't like most humans, I just don't like embarrassment. And I don't like criticism of the way I run things. I take it very badly. Have you noticed? Alright. Okay. Nice to talk to you. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.